Let's study 10th Standard ICSE Biology Chapter 9, the excretory system. This chapter is majorly about the kidney system. So it would have been appropriate to call it the urinary system, because the excretory system contains or consists not only the kidney, but various other organs like the liver, the skin, etc. The lungs as well. First of all, what is excretion? It is defined as the removal of harmful and unwanted nitrogenous wastes products from the body. A good test to understand if something is excretion is, first of all, is it giving out something useful or useless / harmful? And secondly, is any filtration happening? You see, egestion, that is passing out of stools or feces, is not excretion because there is no filtration involved there. There are no metabolic wastes in it. It's just the undigested food coming out. Whereas in excretion, metabolic wastes are given out. And by nitrogenous waste products, I mean urea, uric acid, etc., which are produced because of metabolic activities with proteins. It's very important to get rid of metabolic wastes like urea, etc., especially in the form of urine, because if the concentration of urea in the body increases, it can be fatal. So the nitrogenous wastes, how are they produced, by the way? There is a process called deamination. If you remember, in 9th standard you have studied, oh yeah, of course you don't remember, in the liver, the excess amino acids undergo deamination. You see, excess amino acids cannot be stored in our body. Excess glucose can be stored as glycogen, but not as excess amino acids. Amino acids are what we get from digestion of proteins. So the excess amino acids are broken down into two parts, glucose and urea. This glucose can be used by the body or stored in the body. Urea is a waste product which we will need to get rid of because it is very poisonous. Usually this urea is filtered out by the kidney, and that's how urine is formed. So the excretory organs of a body is kidney, major organ of a body. It filters out urea and other nitrogenous wastes and even other non-nitrogenous wastes. Sweat glands. The primary function of sweat glands is thermoregulation. They help to maintain the body temperature by sweating, etc. But they also help in excretion because 1% of all the urea which we excrete out is through sweating. Lungs, yes, they too help in excretion because they give out carbon dioxide, which is another metabolic waste. So I'm just going to make some change in the definition. Unwanted metabolic, in bracket, nitrogenous waste, because nitrogenous waste is an example of metabolic waste, but there are some other metabolic wastes like CO2 which are not nitrogenous. Now kidneys. We have the location on either side of the backbone. It is protected by the last two ribs. The right kidney, this is the right kidney. In biology, this is the right, this is the left. So the right kidney is slightly lower compared to the left kidney, because here we have the liver. So to accommodate that, it is a little lower. And they have a cap-shaped gland here called the adrenal gland, which produces hormones like adrenaline. That we'll study in endocrine system chapter. Now you can see that the aorta brings oxygenated blood, and the branches of aorta are called arteries. These are called renal arteries, which are shown as red, and the deoxygenated blood is taken away towards the heart by the vena cava, the posterior vena cava or the inferior vena cava, and these are the renal veins. Remember, in reality, arteries and veins are all containing red blood. We don't have any purple blood in our body. It's here just to distinguish between the two. And the arrows help us to understand which one is a aorta and vena cava, if it was a black and white picture then. Now, interestingly, this oxygenated blood is actually impure blood. It has a lot of urea and other wastes. And this deoxygenated blood going back, we can call it as purified blood because the wastes have already been filtered out by the kidney, and the wastes have now been sent by the ureters into the urinary bladder where it is stored as urine. And at regular intervals, the sphincter muscle can open up and the urine can pass out through your urethra. This process of urination is called micturition. Now you can slice the kidney and look at these parts. So you may order, after some time, you can order, say, a goat's kidney via Amazon and just do this experiment at home. Write it as a homework. So when you slice it, you see the outside part is the cortex. Of course, the outside part of any organ is the cortex. And the central part, the middle part, is called the medulla. The cortex appears to be dotted and the medulla appears to be striped. There's a reason, which I'll tell you shortly. I see some triangular regions which are called the pyramids, and the peaks of these pyramids are called papilla. This central region is called the pelvis. That's where all the urine gets poured in. This notch is called the hilum, from where the ureter starts. So the renal artery brings in the impure blood, that is having the nitrogenous wastes. It branches into arterioles and capillaries, very tiny capillaries, and passes through the various nephrons. 1 million nephrons in the kidney. Nephron is the structural and functional unit of the kidney. These nephrons will filter the blood, and the purified blood will once again be collected by these venules, and the renal vein will carry it away and take it towards the vena cava. And all the urine which was filtered will be poured into the pelvis, and then the urine will pass through the ureter to the urinary bladder. Practice this diagram and even this diagram, not this one, just this one, and most importantly this one. This is a very simplified diagram. Yes, it is simplified. The actual diagram is something like this. If you prefer to draw this, you can. No? Okay. Let's go back to this one. So, we have something called the Bowman's capsule in a nephron. Understand, a single kidney has around 1 million such nephrons. So you can imagine how small these are. It's a highly magnified image. The Bowman's capsule, just above it, I see that an afferent arteriole has arisen from the renal artery carrying the impure blood. It is broken into a network of blood capillaries, which is called glomerulus, a capillary network. And then they join again to form the efferent arteriole. Afferent means coming and efferent means going. Efferent arteriole, which is quite narrow, so that finally it will join the renal vein. But the reason why this is wide and this is narrow is so that there is some pressure on the liquid in the glomerulus. You see, if there is a wide road with lots of cars and suddenly the road becomes narrow, won't there be a traffic jam? A bottleneck effect. Similarly here, ultra pressure is created, due to which the liquid part of it along with the small molecules are filtered out from the glomerulus to the Bowman's capsule, and this process is called ultrafiltration. The bigger molecules as well as the cells won't be filtered out, so they will continue their journey with some of the blood plasma. The RBCs, the WBCs, the platelets will continue their journey. Even the big molecules like the protein molecules, that is amino acids. No, not amino acids, just the big protein molecules or other big molecules. They will continue their journey. Now this glomerulus plus the Bowman's capsule together is called the Malpighian capsule or Malpighian body. And this solution which has been filtered out is called the glomerular filtrate. This glomerular filtrate will now pass through the PCT, that is a proximal convoluted tubule. The first convoluted means having coils like this. Here, a lot of water is absorbed. You can see that this efferent arteriole again branched into capillaries, and the capillaries called the vasa recta. This is the second capillary network now. The first capillary network was here. The second capillary network called the vasa recta is surrounding the entire nephron for reabsorption. You see, the glomerular filtrate is not urine. Yes, it has the unwanted and the harmful things like urea, excess water, excess salts, etc. But it also has some useful things like glucose, amino acids, and useful sodium salts. We can't get rid of that. We need it. So after ultrafiltration starts reabsorption, the water gets reabsorbed, the salts get reabsorbed, the glucose gets reabsorbed. That's the function of PCT. And even the loop of Henle does reabsorption. The water is reabsorbed into the capillaries. So all the reabsorbed things again join here and they go to the renal vein. And then they go to the vena cava. This loop of Henle is very long in a camel because they need to reabsorb a lot of water. Their urine is very thick. They have to preserve water. In fact, the rate of absorption of water is decided by certain hormone called the ADH, anti-diuretic hormone or vasopressin, which I will talk about shortly. You see, during summer, we need to reabsorb a lot of water. Let our urine be thick and less frequent. And in cold weather, when we don't sweat much, when we don't lose water much, we can urinate frequently. So the urine is quite dilute with a lot of water, assuming that you are drinking a lot of water. Now in the DCT, the distal convoluted tubule, the third process happens, which is called tubular secretion. You see, the blood had some salts like potassium salts which were not filtered out. They are forcibly excreted into the DCT in exchange for sodium ions. Even things like penicillin and other antibiotics were in blood, but we don't need them. They need to be excreted out, so they are secreted into the DCT. So this is called tubular secretion. So now finally all the useful things are in the blood and all the harmful things are in this collecting duct, and this is called urine. And this urine will flow through the collecting duct, which collects urine from the various nephrons, and ultimately it goes into the pelvis and then the ureter and then the urinary bladder, and then it comes out as urine through the urethra. So that's the entire process of how the kidney functions and how the urine is produced by it. This was just one nephron. Imagine 1 million nephrons working every day. Now this entire Malpighian body along with the PCT is present in the cortex region. So let me just draw this, a small Malpighian capsule with the glomerulus and the PCT, and the loop of Henle is in the central region, and so is the collecting duct. So because of the Malpighian body and the PCT being in the cortex, it gives it the dotted appearance. And because of the loop of Henle and collecting duct in the medulla region, it has a striped appearance. These are the reasons. So now we have studied the processes of ultrafiltration, reabsorption and tubular secretion. This table helps us to remember all the functions, make the necessary changes everywhere. Urine is yellow in color because it has a pigment called urochrome. Of course, it varies with diet as well. And we urinate around 1 to 1.5 liters per day. Depends on the weather and how much you drink as well. Water and other things. Constituents of urine, well, these are the organic substances and inorganic substances. Percentages don't matter. But remember, 95% of urine is water. Now, there are some abnormal constituents in urine. So when you do a urine test, and in the urine, if blood cells are found, that means you are suffering from a condition called hematuria, which could be because of infection in the urinary tract or kidney stones or tumor. If there is glucose in your urine, that means you have glycosuria, which can be an indication of a disease called diabetes mellitus. How is this caused? That we'll study in the chapter endocrine system. In such case, the urine is sweet and ants are attracted towards it if it drops in the washroom or somewhere. On the other hand, sometimes the urine has so much excess of water that urine is tasteless. Usually urine is salty, just like sweat, because it has salts. But because of excess water in your urine, it may be so dilute, that means you are suffering from a disease called diabetes insipidus or water diabetes. It is totally different from diabetes mellitus. It is caused because of a different deficiency of hormone, a hormone called ADH, which we will study in detail in that chapter, endocrine system. If albumin is found, albumin is a type of protein, if it is found in your urine during the urine test, it means that there could be some high blood pressure going on in your kidney, which could be due to or it could be due to increased permeability of the Bowman's capsule because of bacterial infection. And bile pigments, well, usually bile is released into the intestine and they are excreted, or rather excreted with the stools being ingested. But sometimes bile may be there in your urine as well. That means you may have anemia, hepatitis, that is jaundice, or liver cirrhosis. Cirrhosis means accumulation of fats. Now, regulation of urine output, as I was explaining, during summer, the ADH hormone is released by the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland, the master gland in our head. Here it is, pituitary gland. Very small gland, but very, very important for life because it controls a lot of other glands. This is from chapter 12. But this pituitary gland, it produces ADH hormone, antidiuretic hormone, also called vasopressin, specifically the posterior lobe. It has two lobes, anterior and posterior, which we'll see in the diagram in that chapter in the future. So if they ask for location, make sure you write posterior as well. You see, if ADH is released, then the reabsorption will increase. And if a lot of reabsorption happens, then less urine is produced. You will urinate less. That is why in summer we urinate less. But in cold weather, ADH production from the pituitary gland decreases. That means the reabsorption will decrease. So they will allow a lot of water to just pass out as urine. That is why you urinate a lot in cold weather. And producing too much urine is called diuresis. If ADH hormone is not produced at all because of some disease, that disease is diabetes insipidus. Then you urinate too much, very regularly. Certain substances when you consume are called diuretics. They increase the urine production. For example, all these liquid beverages. Gout means uric acid is being deposited in the joints, which is causing pain. And kidney stones are caused if things like calcium oxalate get accumulated in your kidney. Now, urination is very important because by excreting water and salts and urea, we are doing osmoregulation. We are regulating the osmotic pressure of the blood. We are regulating the concentration of various things in the blood, which is very important for all our organs to function properly. That is why kidney is a vital organ. If our kidney is damaged, then we'll have to go for a kidney transplant. And if there's a long waiting list for that, then in the meanwhile, the filtering can be done by an artificial kidney machine, a huge machine called the dialysis machine, which will filter your blood in a similar fashion in which the kidney does. But imagine the kidney designed by nature is so small, and the same machine, when we design it, it's so big. So clearly, we are not that great an engineer yet. Now, this is a good reason why we feel thirsty in summer, because we urinate a lot. In cholera, the patient suffers from vomiting and watery bowels, loose motions. So there is a deficiency of water in the body. If there is a deficiency of water in the body, then the kidneys are not able to excrete all the urea from the body. So the urea may accumulate in your body, causing uremia, which can lead to death. That is why it's very important that you drink a lot of water, or you go for a glucose saline drip. You can even drink ORS, oral rehydration solution, like electrol powder, etc., which has salt, sugar and water, to keep your osmotic pressure of the blood and the concentration of the blood intact. This is a summary of the various excretions done by the body. You can see lungs, kidneys, skin, liver, all of them contribute to excretion, but this chapter was focused on only the kidney.
Hi students, this is AJ sir. If you like this video, press the like button. If you would like to enroll for my online test series or online lectures, email me or message me on Instagram. Check the description for more information.